This chart tracks the total supply of US dollars circulating in the economy. For decades, the trajectory remained predictable. Then the 2020 pandemic hit, pumping over $6 trillion into the system, printing roughly 40. For something to work effectively as money, ancient civilizations established three strict physical requirements. It had to be rare, it had to be durable, and it had to be divisible into smaller, recognizable pieces. Gold met these criteria. Because it is formed deep inside the earth over millions of years, its scarcity is a physical reality. Kings couldn't command more into existence, and centuries of attempts by alchemists to synthesize it from lead failed completely. Beyond its rarity, gold does not rust or decay. The ancient Egyptians obsessed over this permanence, believing this indestructible yellow metal was the literal flesh of the sun god, an eternal material that would survive long after its owners had passed. Around 600 BC, the Kingdom of Lydia in modern-day Turkey introduced a mechanism that would change commerce. By standardizing raw gold into official coins stamped with guaranteed weights, the king eliminated the need to weigh the metal for every transaction. By locking their economies to a finite physical metal, early rulers created a system governed by math rather than decree. It prevented them from artificially inflating their own wealth at the expense of others. But managing a finite resource is difficult for an expanding empire. The Romans eventually ran into a severe scaling crisis. Their military expansion ran out of fresh gold mines to pillage, leaving them without enough metal to pay their soldiers. To bridge the gap, Roman emperors began a process known as debasement. Over time, they gradually shrank the size of their coins, mixing the remaining gold with cheap, abundant metals like copper. This was the birth of inflation. For the first time, an empire expanded its money supply by systematically sacrificing the underlying value of its currency. A historical pattern emerged. Whenever an empire's ambition exceeded its physical gold supply, rulers often broke the rules of money to survive, creating a hidden tax that slowly drained the purchasing power of their citizens. By the 19th century, massive gold rushes in California and Australia flooded global markets. Nations needed a new system to handle the volume of newly extracted wealth moving across borders. The solution was the gold standard. Governments printed paper dollars, but each bill was essentially a receipt. You could walk into a bank and trade that paper for its exact equivalent in physical gold. The printing press was physically chained to the vault. That system created price stability, but it became a financial straitjacket when governments faced the astronomical costs of World War I and the desperation of the Great Depression. Needing to print money without the restriction of gold reserves, President Franklin D. Roosevelt took a radical step in 1933. He made it illegal for American citizens to own gold bullion, forcing them to surrender their private holdings in exchange for paper money. By confiscating the physical metal, the government centralized its financial power. The state held the actual wealth, leaving the public with paper notes that the government could now print at will. In 1944, global leaders met at Bretton Woods to rebuild the international economy. They placed the US dollar at the center of global trade because America promised to back those dollars with its massive gold reserves. The system relied on trust, but by the 1960s, foreign nations realized America was printing far more dollars than it had gold in the vault. Suspicious of the math, countries like France began demanding physical delivery of their bullion. America was rapidly losing gold. To stop a total collapse of US reserves, President Richard Nixon went on television on August 15, 1971, and permanently closed the gold window, suspending the dollar's convertibility into physical metal. This decision severed the final tether. For the first time in 5,000 years, global money was backed by nothing but government promises. The market reaction was immediate. Without a fixed standard, gold surged from $35 to $850 an ounce in under a decade. But this reflected the dollar's changing value. The money supply ballooned into multi-trillions, diluting the value of every bill. This brings us back to the modern central bankers from Act 1. These institutions continue to hold gold as an ultimate insurance policy, a physical anchor in an economy currently built on digital balance sheets and policy decisions. Throughout history, we see that currency systems fluctuate. The Roman denarius, the Spanish real, and the gold-backed British pound all eventually changed or declined. Through each of those shifts, the physical metal remained. Paper money relies on trust in government, but gold relies on the physics of the earth. As J.P. Morgan testified to Congress in 1912, gold is money, everything else is credit.